everyone, welcome back to another episode of Reading Rainbows, where we are reading Inkheart by Cornelia Funke, and today we are reading Chapter 34, Capricorn's Secrets. "If I were to be made a knight," said the wart, staring dreamily into the fire, "I should pray to God to let me encounter all the evil in the world in my own person, so that if I conquered, there would be none left. And if I were defeated, I would be the only one to suffer for it." "That would be extremely presumptuous of you," said Merlin, "and you would be conquered, and you would suffer for it." T.H. White, The Sword in the Stone. Capricorn received Meggie and Fenoglio in the church. About a dozen of his men were with him. He was sitting in the new black leather armchair they had installed under Mortola's supervision, and this time, for once, his suit was not red but pale yellow, like the morning daylight filtering in through the windows. He had them brought to him early, while the mist still hung above the hills, with the sun swimming in it like a ball I just can't talk today. With the sun swimming in it like a ball floating in murky water. "By all the letters of the alphabet," whispered Fenoglio, as he and Meggie walked down the nave of the church with Basta close behind them. "What kind of an exclamation is that, by all the letters of the alphabet?" "You are a weird guy, Fenoglio." "He really does look exactly the way I imagined him, colorless as a glass of milk. I think that's how I put it." He began walking faster, as if he couldn't wait to see his creation at close quarters. Meggie could hardly keep up with him, and Basta held him back before he had reached the steps. "Here, what's the idea?" he hissed. "Not so fast. And bow, understand?" Fenoglio merely glanced scornfully at him and remained perfectly upright. Basta raised his hand, but when Capricorn almost imperceptibly shook his head, he lowered it again like a rebuked child. Mortola was standing beside Capricorn's chair, her arms folded like wings behind her back. "You know, Basta, I still wonder what you were thinking of not to bring her father, too," said Capricorn, letting his gaze wander from Meggie to Fenoglio's turtle-like face. "He wasn't there, I told you." Basta sounded injured. "Was I supposed to sit around waiting for him like a toad beside a pond? He'll soon be here of his own accord. We all know how besotted he is with his daughter. I'll bet my knife he'll be here by tomorrow at the latest." "Your knife? But you've already mislaid your knife once recently." The mockery in Mortola's voice made Basta grind his teeth. "You're slipping, Basta," remarked Capricorn. "Your hot temper clouds your judgment, but let's move on to this other souvenir of yours." Fenoglio had never taken his eyes off Capricorn. He was looking at him like a painter seeing one of his pictures again after many long years, and judging by the expression on his face, what he saw pleased him. Meggie couldn't see a trace of fear in his eyes, just incredulous curiosity and satisfaction with himself. She also saw that Capricorn did not care for that expression at all. He wasn't used to being inspected as fearlessly as this old man was scrutinizing him now, not even by his men. Yeah, I mean, you kind of have to wonder just what it would be like, for a creator to see their creation face to face read out of the pages of a book, for one thing, but also for that character brought to life to be meeting the person that thought them up in the first place. It's like, imagine if, for instance, Voldemort got read out of the pages of the Harry Potter books. And he met J.K. Rowling face to face. What would Joe think of Voldemort, and what would Voldemort think of Joe? Gotta wonder, how that meeting would go. What are they thinking? What would they say to each other? How would they react? Basta has told me some strange things about you, Signor Fenoglio. Meggie was watching Capricorn's face. Had he ever read the name on the cover of Inkheart just below the title itself? Even his voice sounds the way I imagined, Fenoglio whispered to her. She thought he was captivated, like a child looking at a caged lion, except that Capricorn wasn't in a cage. At a signal from him, Basta jammed his elbow into the old man's back so roughly that Fenoglio was left gasping for air. "I don't like whispering in my presence," Capricorn said softly, while Fenoglio was still struggling to get his breath back. "As I said, Basta has told me a strange story. He says you claimed to be the man who wrote a certain book. What was its name again?" "Inkheart." Fenoglio rubbed his aching back. "Its title is Inkheart because it's about a man whose wicked heart is as black as ink, filled with darkness and evil. I still like the title." Capricorn raised his eyebrows and smiled. "And how am I supposed to take that? As a compliment, maybe? After all, it's my story you're talking about." No, it's mine. You just appear in it." Meggie saw Basta look inquiringly at Capricorn, but he shook his head again very slightly, and Fenoglio's back was spared, for the time being. "How interesting. So you're sticking to your lies." Capricorn uncrossed his legs and rose from his chair. With slow strides he came down the steps. Fenoglio smiled conspiratorially at Meggie. "What are you grinning for?" Capricorn's voice was as sharp as Basta's knife now. He stopped right in front of Fenoglio. "Oh, I was only thinking that vanity is one of the qualities I gave you. Vanity and—" Fenoglio paused for effect before continuing, "and a few other weaknesses that I expect you'd rather I didn't mention in front of your henchmen." Capricorn examined him in silence, a silence that seemed to last an eternity. Then he smiled. It was a faint, thin smile, little more than a lift at the corners of his mouth, while his eyes scanned the church as if he had entirely forgotten Fenoglio. "You're a shameless old man," he said, "and a liar in the bargain. But if you hope to impress me with your barefaced lying and boasting the way you've impressed Basta, I must disappoint you. Your claims are ridiculous, just as you are, and it was more than stupid of Basta to bring you here, because now we have to get rid of you, somehow." Basta turned pale. He hurried over to Capricorn, head lowered in submission. "But suppose he isn't lying," Meggie heard him whisper to Capricorn. "They both say we will all die if we touch the old man." Capricorn gave him a look of such contempt that Basta flinched backward as if he had been struck. Yeah, and I have to wonder, does Capricorn really think that Fenoglio is lying, or is he just saying that because he's got to look good in front of his men and in front of Mortola and all that, as if he needs to make himself look brave and like the better person and, superior and all. Oh, haha, you think you created me? Oh no, you're a fool, you're a liar, whatever. Fenoglio, however, looked as if he were enjoying himself hugely. It seemed to Meggie that he was watching the whole scene as if it were a play performed especially for him. "Poor Basta," he said to Capricorn. "You're doing him a great injustice again, for he's right. Suppose I'm not lying. Suppose I really did invent you both, you and Basta. Will you simply dissolve into thin air if you do anything to me? It seems very likely." Capricorn laughed, but Meggie sensed he was thinking over what Fenoglio had said, and it made him uneasy, even if he were taking great pains to hide his concern under a mask of indifference. "I can prove I am what I say I am," said Fenoglio, so quietly that, apart from Capricorn, only Basta could hear his words. "Shall I do it here, in front of your men and those women? Shall I tell them about your parents?" All was quiet in the church now. No one moved, neither Basta nor the other men waiting at the foot of the steps. Even the women cleaning the floor under the tables straightened up to look at Capricorn and the strange old man. Mortola was standing beside his chair, her chin jutting out as if that would help her to hear what they were whispering about. Capricorn inspected his cufflinks in silence. They were like drops of blood on his pale shirt. Then, at last, he turned his colorless eyes to Fenoglio's face again. "Say what you like, old man, but if you value your life, say it so that only I can hear." He spoke softly, but Maggie heard the fury in his voice, suppressed with difficulty, but lurking behind every word. She had never felt more afraid of him. Capricorn signed to Basta, who reluctantly took a few steps backward. "I suppose the child can hear what I have to say?" asked Fenoglio, putting his hand on Maggie's shoulder. "Are you afraid of her, too?" Capricorn did not even look at Maggie. He had eyes only for the old man who had invented him. "Well, come on. Let's hear you, even if you have nothing to say. You are not the first person to try saving his skin in this church with a few lies. But if you hedge your bets any longer, I'll tell Basta the way to wrap a... If you hedge your bets any longer, I'll tell Basta to wrap a pretty little viper around your neck. I always keep a few around the place for such occasions." Even this threat didn't particularly impress Fenoglio. "Very well," he said, looking all around him as if sorry not to have a larger audience. "Where shall I begin? First, something basic. A storyteller never writes down everything he knows about his characters. There's no need for readers to know everything. Some of it is better kept secret between the author and his creations. Take him, for instance," he added, pointing to Basta. "I always knew he was a very unhappy boy before you picked him up. As it says in another very fine book, it's terribly easy to persuade children that they are worthless. Basta was convinced of it. Not that you taught him any better. Oh no, why would you? But suddenly here was someone to whom he could devote himself, someone who told him what to do. He'd found a god, Capricorn, and if you treated him badly... Well, who says that all gods are kindly? Most of them are stern and cruel, wouldn't you agree? I didn't write all of this in the book. I knew it, that was good enough. But never mind Basta now, let's move on to you." Yeah, first of all, this whole introductory, a writer doesn't write down everything that he knows about his characters, blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. Yeah, is just... It's sort of like he's delaying while trying to think of what to say and how to say it. But second of all, this whole, telling about Basta before he starts telling about Capricorn. Yeah, all that's going to do is piss Capricorn off. Because he's just like, why is this guy wasting his breath? This is stupid. Third of all, that whole bit about, gods, who says that a god is kind. Most of them are stern and cruel. I have to say, I kind of agree. But, I'm not going to get into all of that. We can discuss that down in the comments if you'd like. But, yeah, It's very interesting thought. Capricorn's eyes did not move from Fenoglio. His face was as rigid as if he had turned to stone. Capricorn. Fenoglio's voice sounded almost tender as he spoke the name. He gazed over Capricorn's shoulder as if he had forgotten that the man he was talking about was standing right in front of him and no longer existed only in an entirely different world between the covers of a book. He has another name too, of course, but even he doesn't remember it. He has called himself Capricorn since he was 15, after the star sign under which he was born. Capricorn, the unapproachable, unfathomable, insatiable, who likes to play God or the devil as the fancy takes him. The devil doesn't have a mother, though, does he? Fenoglio then looked Capricorn in the eye. But you do. Meggie looked up at the magpie. She had come to the edge of the steps, listening, her bony hands clenched into fists. You like to spread the rumor that she was of noble birth, Fenoglio went on. Indeed, it sometimes even pleases you to say she was a king's daughter, and your father, you claim, was an armorer at her father's court. A very nice story, too. Shall I tell you my version? For the first time, Meggie saw something like fear on Capricorn's face, a nameless fear without beginning or end, and behind it, hatred rose like a vast black shadow. Meggie felt sure Capricorn wanted to strike Fenoglio to the ground, but his fear was too strong, leaving him helpless to act. Did Fenoglio see that too? Go on, tell your story. Why not? Capricorn's eyes were unblinking like a snake's. Fenoglio smiled as mischievously as one of his grandsons. Very well, let's go on. The tale of the court armorer was all lies, of course. Meggie still had a feeling that the old man was enjoying himself enormously. He might have been teasing a kitten. Did he know so little about his own creation? Capricorn's father was an ordinary blacksmith, he went on, refusing to let the cold rage in Capricorn's eyes distract him. He made his son play with hot coals, and sometimes he beat him almost as hard as he beat the iron he forged. There were blows if the boy ever showed pity, and more blows for shedding tears, and for every time the lad said, "I can't," or "I'll never do it." Power is all that counts, he taught his son. Rules are made by the strongest, so be sure that you're the one who makes them. Capricorn's mother thought that was the only real truth in the world, and she told her son day in, day out that one day he would be the strongest of all. She was no princess, but a serving maid, with coarse hands and roughened knees, and she followed her son like a shadow, even when he began to be ashamed of her, and invented a new mother and a new father for himself. She admired him for his cruelty. She loved to see the terror he spread abroad, and she loved his ink-black heart. Your heart is a stone, Capricorn, a black stone, with about as much human sympathy as a lump of coal, and you are very, very proud of it. Capricorn went on playing with his cufflink, turning it around and looking at it intently as if he were giving all of his attention not to Fenoglio's words, but to the little red piece of metal. When the old man fell silent, Capricorn carefully pulled the sleeve of his jacket down over his wrist and brushed a speck of fluff off his arm. With it he seemed to have brushed off his anger. His pale, indifferent eyes no longer showed rage, hatred, or fear. "That really is an amazing story, old man," he said in a quiet voice. "I like it. You're a born liar, so I shall keep you here, for the time being, until I tire of your stories." "Keep me here?" Fenoglio stood very straight. "I've no intention of staying here. What on earth—" But Capricorn put a hand over his mouth. "Not another word," he hissed. "Basta has told me about your 3 grandchildren. If you give me any trouble, or tell your lies not to me, but to my men, I shall take Basta to gift wrap a few young vipers and leave them outside your grandchildren's door. Do I make myself clear, old man?" Fenoglio's head drooped as if Capricorn had broken his neck with nothing but a few softly spoken words. When he looked up again, fear showed in every wrinkle of his face. With a satisfied smile, Capricorn put his hands in his pants pockets. "Yes, you all love something, soft-hearted as you are," he said. "Children, grandchildren, brothers and sisters, parents, dogs, cats, canary birds. There are no exceptions. Farmers, shopkeepers, even policemen have families, or at least keep a dog. You have only to look at her father." Capricorn pointed at Maggie so suddenly she jumped. "He'll come here even though he knows I won't let him go again, any more than I will let his daughter go. He'll come all the same. Isn't this world an amazing place?" "Amazing indeed," murmured Fenoglio, and for the first time he looked at his creation with revulsion rather than admiration. Capricorn seemed to prefer that. "Basta!" he called, beckoning him. Basta strolled over deliberately, slowly. He was still looking sulky. "Take the old man to the room where we once locked Darius," Capricorn ordered, "and post a guard outside the door." "You want me to take him into your house?" Basta sounded surprised. "Yes, why not? After all, he claims to be almost like a father to me. Anyway, his tales amuse me." Basta shrugged and grasped Fenoglio's arm. Maggie looked at the old man, horrified. She would soon be all alone, with nothing but the windowless walls and a locked door. But Fenoglio reached for her hand before Basta could haul him away. "Leave the girl with me," he said to Capricorn. "You can't shut her in that hole again all by herself, and I promised her father I'd look after her." Capricorn turned his back, looking indifferent. "As you like. Her father will be here soon again in any case." Yes, Mo would come. Maggie could think of nothing else as Fenoglio led her away with him, his arm around her shoulders as if he really could protect her from Capricorn and Basta and all the others. But he couldn't. Would Mo be able to protect her? Of course not. He mustn't come, she thought, please. Perhaps he won't be able to find the way again. He mustn't come. Yet there was nothing she wanted more. Nothing in the whole wide world. And that's the end of that chapter. Yeah, again, I find this whole interaction between the creator and the creation so interesting, and I want to know more. I want to it's amazing, it's intriguing. It makes me wonder how, like I was saying, other creators would react to meeting their creations face to face. And it's just, I want more. So, that's it for today. I thank you for joining me. I hope you'll join me again next time. And I hope you have a great day.